Hey everyone, it's Jack Ray here from Jazz Banjo Academy. I'm here with a lesson on basic right hand technique for jazz banjo. This video is part of our Banjo Basics series where we answer some of the questions you might have when you first start learning the banjo. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to hold the pick. I want you to hold it with your thumb and your first finger, so your thumb and your index finger. I want your index finger curled in towards us, and then I want your thumb to just press on top of it, stamp it there. So with the pick, you can see it's a triangle or a teardrop shape. So we want that pointed end in line with the first finger. The pointed end is sticking out just a couple of millimeters past that index finger, and then our thumb just comes on, keeps it in place like that, right? Then I want you to just strike your lowest string. For me, that's a C. If you're playing tenor or plectrum, it's probably a C string for you as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is bracing. So whether to brace or not to brace. By bracing, we mean using some of our free fingers on our right hand to hold ourselves in position, so keep a small plane of motion when we're picking. We don't want to be picking and have our downstroke, say on our highest string, the A string here, and end up going down there, right? So if we have this, our hands are going to move much less, because we've kind of got this pinky here for me controlling the motion, so it's keeping it small. That allows me to be more efficient with my technique. Now you can brace with two fingers using your ring finger and your pinky, or three fingers using that middle finger, ring finger, and index finger. I like to use the tip of my finger to brace. Other people use their fingers curled, tucked under like that. Find something that feels comfortable for you and you've got a lot of control. I think that's the main thing with bracing. It just gives you more control and it'll allow you to be more efficient with your picking. Now, before we move on and talk about strumming and playing chords with right hand, I just want to give you, this is really just for really beginner players. I just want you to pick down along the strings. So for me, that's C string, G string, D string, A string. It really doesn't matter what tuning you're in. This is a good exercise. It doesn't even matter if you've got more strings, just pick along each of your string. And then the first thing I want you to do is come back using downstrokes as well. So we're coming from above the height of the string and coming through it. So with the downstroke, we're always coming from above the string and going through it. Now the other way we can stroke is an upstroke, right? So we can go from below the string and come up like that. So try just picking all your open strings down each way, then even try up each way, even though you're moving down like that. You're just getting the hang of down and up picks, right? Then I want you to go down as we're moving physically down towards the ground. So down, 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 and then up, 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 up. Okay? Now I want you to go down and up on each string. So down, up, change strings, down, up, change strings, down, up, change strings, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Hopefully you get the idea. A couple of things I want you to note with the technique here as well. There's an option here to do what's called a rest stroke, and that's where we come through the string and we rest on the next string. So here I'm playing my bottom, lowest string, our C string, and I'm coming through and resting on the G string. Same thing here, I'm playing my G string, coming to rest on my D string. We could do it the other way as well. So say I'm picking up on my D string, I come and rest on the G string. Again, that just keeps me in a small plane of motion. If you want a rest stroke, I think it's a good idea, but don't worry too much about it if you're just starting out. Try not to rest your hand heavily on the strings, because that'll give you a muted sound. And the other thing I see a lot of players doing is when they pick up, especially with consecutive upstrokes like that, they'll roll their hand like this, and so you end up like that. And after you're like that, then you have to do this whole big movement to get back down. So as I'm picking up, all that's happening is my hand is actually just moving up and down. It's a very small plane of motion, but I'm just coming up and then down. I'm not rolling my hand to get either of those motions, right? So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind too. When you first start playing, most of the time you'll learn to pick at a 90-degree angle, by which I mean you're perfectly flat on, the pick is exactly level like that. Now you can also just have it a slight angle either way, so sort of 45 degrees that way or the other way, right? It's just something to note. You don't have to, if you find yourself going one way or the other slightly, I would say stick with it rather than just try and force yourself to go at 90 degrees, because you'll probably find as you get it more advanced that you'll have a slight bit of angle anyway, because it just cuts down slightly on the resistance as you're moving really quickly back and forth along the sets of strings. So let's talk about what we're mostly going to be doing as a jazz banjo player. So most of the time we're playing in a band in the rhythm section, which means we're playing chords. So when we're strumming, we're giving the effect of a piano chord coming out all at once, which the only way we can really do on a string instrument like that is to grab all the strings, but we want to give it a forceful sound, so we're striking them, and we want it to sound all at once. We don't want it to sound like a broken chord or an arpeggio. We want it to sound like a continuous sound, and it's happening all at once, really, right? So if we're strumming at a reasonable tempo, it's very hard for the human ear to hear that as a broken chord, right? Essentially, we're just hearing all those notes ringing out at the same time. But it's important to try and get a smooth sound with that at first. Now, just on a technical thing, I'm tucking my fingers into my palm. I'm not clenching them there like a fist, but they're curled in, right? You can also have it ringing out like that. It's really just a matter of preference. I've seen players do both. It's almost a 50-50 split as to when they're strumming, whether you have your fingers out or curled in. Some players even strum with the brace. That's just not very comfortable for me. Now with this right hand technique stuff, I don't want you to take my word as gospel. I'm just giving you a few options, and I hope they work for you, and I hope you help them out. I think they're good fundamental techniques. There are slight tweaks you can get that to be much faster if you ever really need to play stuff that's really challenging. But these techniques allow me to play everything I need to play, playing this sort of music. So they work for me. I hope they work for you. If not, find other players that you really like the playing of. Check out their technique. See if that works better for you. Technique is really just, it's fundamental. You don't want to be thinking about it when you're trying to play music. It's just like learning how to walk, right? So we're just the basic mechanics of what we need to do to play music. So just try and get those right, focus in on them at the start, build fundamentals, and go from there. It's also an evolving thing. People change their technique as they go. Just try and establish you're gonna do it the same way every time to begin with, right? So that it's muscle memory, that it's actually in there. It's not just fluking it, and you definitely don't want to ever be feeling tension. That's also a really important thing with your technique. If you're feeling a lot of tension in your forearm or your wrists or even your fingers, then you probably need to adjust something. Thanks for watching. My name's Jack Ray from Jazz Banjo Academy. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click subscribe and share it with anyone you think might be interested in learning some jazz banjo.